Hi everyone, I'm Danny. Welcome to Neither Here Nor There, conversations across
global friendships from a male perspective. Hi everyone, my name is Christina. So today we have a very special guest joining us from New York City. He'll be my friend Tanaka, and he's going to tell us a little bit about how a guy thinks about friendships and maybe cultural differences he notices from the different cultures he's part of.
All right, let's take it away.
Hi Tanaka, thank you so much for joining us from another time zone.
No, yeah, look, great to be here and great to see you, Christina. And yeah, looking forward to chatting with you.
And of course, this is Danny. I think that you guys are getting to know each other.
Yes.
All right, what do we got today?
So to get started, I would love for Tanaka to share about your background. If you can tell the audience where you're from and a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, happy to do that. So I'm originally from Zimbabwe. So from Southern Africa. I wasn't born there, so I was born in London. But my family, all my ancestors are Zimbabwean, and that's what I claim. My older sibling was born there, and I always make a funny joke that I was conceived in Zimbabwe but born in London. Yeah, so I lived in London for about 12 years, which was great. Not great weather, but great vibes all around. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed playing all the sports in the UK, football, cricket, rugby growing up. Moved to the US when I was 12. My dad had got a job at the World Bank, so we moved to the US in the DC area, and we pretty much settled in Maryland. So I call, in the US, the DC area, DMV, is essentially my US base, US home. Some of my family still lives there. And then, spent most of my time on the East Coast in the US. Did a little stint in the West Coast, but yeah, originally from Zimbabwe, spent some time in UK, and spent some time, most of my time in the US on the East Coast.
That's amazing. Tanaka, remind me, we met in London, right? About 7 years ago? Isn't that where we met?
Almost forgot about that. Yeah, that's where we originally met, at the Wharton Admitted Students London get together.
Something, yeah. I think I organized that.
Yes.
So I was remembering this. It's been 7 years since we met.
Good memory.
So anyway, I think just to get started, thank you for sharing that. Really curious to know, growing up in such a multicultural kind of way, how do you think it has impacted your personality and how your way of thought?
I think that this is probably multifaceted, so I can maybe list out a few things. I think one, that as I'm getting older, I realize that growing up multicultural, so I'm interested and intrigued at things on a global level, just naturally, right? Like I'm following what's going on in politics in Asia, or what's going on in sports in South America, right? So like the scope of what I'm interested in and what I like to keep tabs on and know about from just content and also from actual people perspective is pretty broad and pretty wide. And I just feel that gives me stimulation, satisfaction, and fulfillment, sort of having the ability to think about things on a global scale versus just very, very super localized. I like to think that I'm a little bit unbiased when it comes to countries or regions or this or that. I like to be a lot of people are very passionate about politics, this or that. I like to take a very objective approach, okay, I understand why this person would do this, and I understand why that person. There's reasons on both sides. There's not really many bad, just people who are bad for the sake of being bad. There's reasons and rationale. So I try to take that perspective, and I think those are two things, and I think just sort of in my day to day and the sort of talking about what we were talking about earlier, just my friend circle. I enjoy keeping a friend circle that's sort of diverse and brings a little different perspective, and that sort of organically happens with me. So those are some areas. There's probably more areas that has impacted me, but those are a few that I can start out saying.
Yeah, for sure. I want to go back to the unbiased thing because I've always thought and I like how you said you like to keep friends for a diverse group of friends. I personally feel does it help you at all at work?
So it probably helps me a little bit at work. I think I can quickly assimilate. It's actually interesting. I feel like I can quickly assimilate to a certain culture or this or that, where to the point where you almost don't stand out. And then when you start getting asked a lot of questions about you, people are like, wait, so you didn't just spend your whole time in the US? You didn't how do you know? Because I know how to I know how to hang around people from the year. So it's then you start to stand out a little bit. So I think it can help you assimilate, help you like sort of get along, help you build quick rapport with folks. I think that's helpful. I mean, taking a little bit of a different angle, I do like not necessarily directly at work, but I think it helps with. I think it can help with if you're someone who's like sort of globally minded and interested in things in different areas, different regions. Having a network that's global of diverse people can help you in many ways outside of work. Whether you need a favor when you're in Cuba like, to get out, or whether you need this or that. So I think it can help you in more ways that are outside of like direct career corporate. I think it can sort of help you in more ways outside of that. I can elaborate on that. If you need it.
Especially if you're stuck in Cuba, for sure. I'm kidding. Yeah, I think that's something that we talk about often, and something that's my own agenda. I think I'm pushing that on both of you guys. I do like that diverse perspective, and I do bring that into work, and I do agree with you. I feel like it helps me assimilate better until someone starts asking a little bit more questions. Then it starts to get a little bit more like, oh, what? You? What? That's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You're not just American? Oh. Yeah. Then you're outside the box now. You're no longer fit into a specific category. But yeah, I agree with that too.
Can I just say, Danny, when Tanaka's describing his views on how to make friends and how he's like such a global citizen, does it sound like me?
It does.
I felt like I was so connected. I was like, I know exactly what you're saying.
No,
finally,
it does. It does.
Yeah.
When we're talking about it, it reminds me so much of you, and sometimes we previously interviewed. I don't know if you know Astrid, and just a lot of TCK kids, mostly in
Astrid, fellow Zimbabwean.
Oh yeah. But yeah, so like it definitely does. And I, at some point, would love to discuss with Christina, like, the differences between your TCK and my TCK, because they are quite different. But, yeah, that sounds about right.
So anyway, to dive into the main kind of the crux of today's topic, which is building global friendships, to start off, Tanaka, how do you consider a person a friend? Like, what do you consider in a friend?
Someone that I can put my guard down with. So and just have a good time. I feel as you get older, you're in certain circles, this and that. It's easy for people to come across in a way that makes you want to put your guard up or protect yourself or put up a certain pretense of who you are versus just being who you are, right? Like just laying on a couch in whatever and just hanging out and like being like, all right, let's just order pizza. Like, so I think like people who I can literally feel very comfortable just being fully myself and not like putting on any sort of facade, and then also having a good time, right? Like that's important. Like actually like enjoying the company, having a good time, spending a good time. I also like this is an interesting one. I'm not gonna claim credit for this, but I heard this other day and it resonated with me. And it was like a good friend or family or lover or whatever is not only like you often think about people who you can share like bad news with. And they can support you and have your back and this and that. But someone was like, actually, who can you like share the best news with? Like when you're doing really, really well, and like you know that they're completely supportive, completely loving, and they're all about you in that moment, and like they can just be empathetic for you. I feel like that's almost more challenging, and I feel like I have less of those people than I have the people who I could share the negative with. So like that's kind of the thing that actually when I heard that I was like, wait, if I get promoted at work or I do a crazy business deal, I can call them and be like, and I know they're gonna be excited about me. No jealousy, no like ego, no competition. Like they're just gonna be. So there's actually a very short list of people who I think meet that criteria for me, and like those are probably like my best of friends. And then these other ones who are more like they're good friends, acquaintances, but I'm probably not gonna share or like a lot of my wins or things like that, just because I just doesn't feel like it just doesn't feel right or doesn't feel natural. So I think those are. I mean, there's probably many other things, but those are a few ones.
I love that point. That is something that I have just never thought about. You always think about the person that you go to share like when shit hits the fan. But what happens when, I don't know, feathers hit the fan? What's the opposite of that? I don't know. But like, yeah, essentially, who do you go to for the good news to feel good with you? Who will just like be like happy with you? And there's no other agenda to it. That is such a great point. What do you think about that?
I love it. I honestly have never thought about it. And as you were saying, I was just going through my head and feeling goosebumps. Like, who do you... And then, like, I try to, resonate with that. That's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think just going from that, though, Tanaka, so, like, because, yes, let's use that criteria, which I really, really appreciate. Do you still consider people do you have to consider them, to call them... to be in touch with them constantly, or do you feel like someone you haven't spoken to in a while, but you can still reach out to them and tell them the good news?
There's probably gonna be another theme that you guys were bringing up, but I think definitely the latter. Like, I am okay with going at like a reasonable period of time without probably like interacting, and then there's a few people in my life who, we can go like weeks, months. Like I'm not 10 years, not a decade. Like, but like weeks or months. I mean, life is busy. Like most of my friends are doing this, doing that, traveling. Like busy. So, but if something is really important, I'm like, hey, like, do you have 10 minutes like tomorrow? And I can call you and need to tell you something. And then like if it's one of my good friends, if they say that to me, I'll be like, yeah, like I'll find the time, or like I'll like so yeah. When things are, I think the folks I'm good friends with, they understand that I'm busy, they're busy, so we're not going to be talking to each other daily, like, or even maybe weekly. But when things are important, we'll make the time.
I have 2 questions.
Go ahead.
Okay, first question is, what about for like just regular chit chat catch ups? Like, you have a friend that lives in I don't know where you live in London now, correct?
New York.
New York. You live in New York. What if you have a friend that's in Asia, like say Christina, like will you like send a message to like chit chat to catch up? Like what's the MO for that? If you think about someone, do you just immediately message them?
So there's friends in different categories, right? Like
yeah.
Like I have like there's my friend Frank, like him and I, he's a little bit like less emotional, he's more like cold, like he doesn't need to be here. I don't need to be hearing from him daily. I don't chat with Frank, but like, hey, my move to New York is going great, man. Like, how's it going? Like, he doesn't have time for that. But if I see him, like, he's loyal, he has my back, like, he's good. Whereas I have my friend Eric, who's literally just like, hey, man, like, are you watching the sports game this weekend? Like, and him and I can just text back. So, and the quality of our, like, they're probably equally as good of friends, but it's just how our dynamic is based upon our personalities and sort of how it's shaken up over the years. So, I have a few folks who I can just text like randomly and this and that, but some others who is like more intentional, or it varies across the friend group.
Okay, and then my second question is, because I really want a man's perspective on how they keep in contact with people. So with my friends from across the world, like a lot of them, some of them are men and some of them are women. But truthfully for me, for a lot of the women I keep in contact with easier because we're just chitter-chattering away half the time. Mostly it's me. But then with my guy friends, we'll touch base. It'll be longer periods before we touch base. And when we touch base, it's like, yo, what's up? Did you also watch the sports game? Did you also watch rugby? Did you also do, I don't know, something like that? And I was just wondering what your experience is with, I guess, both men and women, I think, for me. I want to know.
That's a good perspective.
Yeah, I want to know your perspective, like, how often you need a chitter-chatter.
I think I personally am not like a huge chitter-chatterer. So that probably impacts my relationships with both men and women. I see it fairly, I think there's probably a stereotype or generalization, or I've at least witnessed or seen with the women in my life, like that they seem to like be on FaceTime with their friends more and this and that. Like, yeah. I'm like, so
that's exactly what I want to know.
If I do have some women friends who, like, if I was probably more receptive or open or face, like, they probably would meet that same energy, but maybe because I'm a little bit more reserved or a little bit less like frequent communicator, then it just sort of like it meets at that point, right? If it's hot and cold meat, you're gonna get warm. So, but yeah, on the guy front. So
is that warmness? I gotta interrupt you. That hot. If it's hot and it's cold, and then meet in the middle, it's warm. Warm sounds pretty nice. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, as long as both folks are like feel okay about what's happening, right? The communication. Like, if someone feels like, wait, why does this person not communicate? Blah blah blah. Like, then that's a problem. But if everyone's okay with it, then it's good. Like,
yeah. But like,
but yeah,
what about yeah?
I was gonna say with the guys we have a so I have this is an interesting thing to bring up. Sorry, I know I was told to keep it short, but it's interesting thing
Go
to bring
for
up.
it.
We have a it's a couple of us guys. We formed a group chat, and it's like 8 of us, and we're all. It's actually funny because we're all like a little bit similar. It isn't the most diverse group, but that chat is very active, and so that's more of like us venting, us getting stuff out, like. Damn, like why did this girl do this to me? Like blah blah. Like, what do this
I
situation?
love
So
it.
like it's more like it's called the Goodfellas. Like we call us. It's very corny, but we call ourselves.
Do
the
we have
Goodfellas.
mutual friends in there, Tanaka? Wink, wink.
I can't comment on such things. So yeah, so that's a fun one that's active and it's yeah, it's like we shoot the shit. We talk trash about sport. We talk about this. Talk about travel trips, and we have a lot of mutual friends too. So like the wedding I'm going to in South Africa in around New Year's, like 3 of us are going to be there out of the 9. Just like kind of coincidentally, they knew each other from different places and that. So that's a really fun one, and it started like a couple. It was with like we kind of mutual business interests, sports. Like we align a lot of things, and that one's pretty active. But yeah, just individually, like it's probably not having super like chatty conversations regularly with anyone.
But I do have to recap for you. Guys do chitter chatter in groups. So guys do chitter chatter. How did that girl, why'd that girl hurt me? I love that. So guys do it too.
Maybe
Of
to a
course.
lesser degree.
Yeah, definitely to a lesser degree. For sure. Sounds like it.
There's some chitter chatter. Listen, we're human. We're social. We wanna laugh. We wanna.
There's
vent.
no shame in that. We're not saying you shouldn't. It's just good to know that we are all the same.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice to know that. That's pretty much like what I want to know. I want to know the other side of things. Is the stereotype something that's socially ingrained in men and women, where women are, you know that it's a stereotype for men and women. Women are, stereotyped to like express themselves a lot more, and men are less so. Maybe not in this day and age compared to before, but it's still compared men and women. I feel like there's still a bit of like there's a divide there in the sense that I feel like still women are still more like openly allowed to express over men still. And that's something that so that's why I want to know more about the male side of having friends. Yeah. It's interesting to me.
Tanaka, with that said, I'm really curious because you've also made friends in different parts of the world. Is there a different dynamic as to how friendships are conducted, I guess, or how do you make friends being in Zimbabwe, being in London, being in the US, especially across cultures?
When you've grown up in multiple different places and you can kind of flex to different areas, like that's kind of what it is, right? So I'm going to Zimbabwe, I'm meeting up with some guys. We're going to play some golf there. Like the things I talk about, like I kind of like bring out a little bit of a different, like that side of me, or a little bit because to connect with them, right? Like I'm not gonna. So like it's almost because you have some you have sort of that experience of multiple different cultures. You can flex to that, and you can use that as like a way to build friends, build rapport, or just sort of again what we said, like assimilate into that environment. So, what like I'm trying to think about specific differences across. Yeah, I mean, like, so for instance, if I'm hanging out with African friends, we're playing Afro beats, we're like eating like jollof, we're doing things like that. I'm not gonna go to my boy's place in England and do like similar type things. Actually, I may, I don't know, who knows? But it's just sort of understanding. Yeah, it's just I don't know. It's just understanding people, understanding humans, and like in drawing on your experience from that area to like make connections and build rapport, right? So small things like I follow rugby. That's big. That's huge in the UK. So we can talk about that. So it's just I think this is drawing on those different things. But there isn't a major different approach that I think to like making friends. I think it's generally similar, but it's just the content of what is being discussed or the style maybe slightly different.
But let me share with you my perspective, Tanaka, because comparing, for example, the Asian culture to like the Latin American culture, the Latin American culture, people share so much more. They're more vocal. They're open with their feelings and their thoughts. Versus in the Asian culture, in particular in Taiwan, people are much more reserved. They don't speak as directly. So always thought that I was just closer to friends in Latin America just because of the way the behavior is. And then it's funny because I started analyzing this and talking to my Taiwanese friends, and they were like, no, but we're so close, even though I don't know anything about your background, you know? So I think like being able, like, I just thought it was such a contrasting experience, not knowing much about a friend in Taiwan. They feel the same or equal closeness versus someone I know so much about in Peru, but we're actually not that close of friends. So I thought that was like culturally very different. And I wonder, you know, maybe the African culture and then like the American culture are more similar in that way. I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, so I think the British it's you kind of see what you get a little bit. So like the people who are my good friends in England, like I know people who are not. I know it's clear. Like you don't mess with me, you don't talk to me, you don't do like you the way you look when I'm around. So versus America, I feel like not to be stereotypical, but I think there is the generalization that like it's more like everyone's like gregarious and like out there and like open. So it's like, are you doing that for everyone? Are you doing that because you like me? Like is that just how you are or things like that? So there's a little bit of that, and then the Zimbabwean one is just interesting because it's like kind of like it's hard. It's almost in the middle. It's hard to read people really and know their intentions and whatnot, and so that's a whole nother ball game that we can get into. But the Zimbabwean context is also interesting with that. So yeah, there is I think culturally, socially, there is like some differences.
I find that very interesting, and I love that you said that. I find, because I grew up mostly with Brits, Hong Kong, British colony, and all that kind of stuff, and then moving to America for college, definitely a very big difference in culture and the way that you express yourself when you meet someone new. And I agree with you with the American side, and it's shocking to me sometimes too because I have such an American accent, and then when I go over there, I'm like, yeah, just I find that very interesting that someone else has the same perspective. Besides my family, obviously. Yeah. What about you?
I think, I think what Tanaka was saying earlier about this, like being able to understand people's like intentions and you know, this way of like the different cultures. For me, clearly it doesn't sound like it's a big impact on how you perceive. But for me, that's always been what's really curious because I don't know how to determine whether people are truly, you know, intentional or is it just to me? Is it just to everyone? Where do I stand? I don't know. I maybe I'm overthinking this, Tanaka.
Is it just with Americans for you?
No, with everyone.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. That's a whole other topic.
Self-confidence issues. But so do you not debate too much about this, Tanaka, overall? It seems like you just go with the flow with this.
Mm.
Yeah, honestly, I think I do. I think I go with the flow at this point. Like, I think there was a point, this is probably interesting, like identity, right? Like, if you're from all these different places, what is your identity? How do you identify yourself? Like, where do you... And so what I've realized is that, like, I'll never be the most Zimbabwean person. I'll never be the most British. I'll never be the most American. Because it's on all those axes, there's people who bred, red-blooded American, like Texan, or like this, someone who's like 5 generations English or born in Zimbabwe, went to high school there, speaks like all the languages. And for a while, like that made me think like, oh, okay, what do I do? Where do I fit in and all that? And then at some point, I was just like, you just are who you, like, you can't even get away with just being who you are. So just be an anomaly. It's fine. And sort of just like use that to your advantage when you can. And some people may look at you and be like, "Whoa, I don't know what's going on here," or blah blah. Is this supposed to be Zimbabwe? And like just kind of ignore those folks, and just navigate it in the best way you can. So I think once I sort of figured that out and landed at that point, then yeah, like I just kind of was, let me just roll with it and like yeah, I have a Japanese sounding name, Zimbabwean, in DC, like. I can't change any of those things, so I gotta just roll with it.
How zen of you! Very zen.
So wow. But with that said, I think, do you intentionally then, because you just mentioned, let's just mention these 3, right? The UK, the US, Zimbabwe. Do you intentionally choose to hone in more on certain relationships or part of your identity and build community, build more in that aspect?
I think I'm definitely getting more African as I get older.
African.
Like my music, what I listen to, who I hang out, it's like trending in that direction. But I still like really appreciate having grown up in England. Like I'll fly across the pond, go get my fish and chips, and like go watch a football match in Manchester. Like that's amazing any day of the week. So I appreciate all those things, but like I feel like as I'm getting older, I'm like okay, like your core identity is Zimbabwean and is African, then you have all these other things to you. And it's just almost happened organically. My girlfriend now is it's African, so like it's kind of just it's just kind of moved that way organically, like not without too much intention. Honestly.
That's interesting. Do you think you're becoming more? What country do you think you're
I
becoming?
am. I was Tanaka. You're like, this is like a. I'm learning so much about myself today. I think I'm also, as I get older, becoming more Asian. When I was younger, I was so much more into like my Peruvian identity. I was like more Latin. Now I live in Taiwan. Like, oh my gosh, maybe you're onto something. Danny, what do you think?
For me, I think I personally think I'm getting a little bit more Asian. Like I'm not kidding. Like it's a very unusual thing because that was like, and I'm wondering I don't know what
She's
that
50%.
is. Yeah, 50%, very much 50%. But like as I'm getting older, I find myself gearing more towards the Asian side. I don't know why. I don't know why. I was thinking, is it because of my mother? Like,
Yeah, is it because of our mothers?
But the thing is, it's hard to tell with you guys because both your parents are from the same place, correct?
But maybe your mother guides your identity. I don't know.
I have no idea. I need to I don't know. When you meet more mixed people, I have no idea.
Wow. Yeah, we should ask our mixed friends.
Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah, but so actually, wait, do you feel like you were less African when you were younger?
I didn't really know what I was. I was just going. I was just hodgepodge, honestly. Until I was just like, I didn't think too critically about it for a long time. I just was like, okay, I wake up, play sports, hang out, have friends. Like okay, my parents told me like, okay, you're gonna be in DC now. So it probably wasn't until like like college maybe when I started like actually thinking about it. But yeah, because of that, like by virtue of not even thinking about it or really having like a clear mindset, I probably was a little bit more spread out. But yeah, I think like after undergrad, just sort of like where I wanted to like focus my energy, my resources, time, like what I want to prioritize, like how I view myself, right? Like I think it, like those things started bubbling up, I think, and then yeah, sort of just let it went down this route.
I love it. No, I think, will that mean you will go back and live maybe in the African continent at some point?
Yes, I think I would strongly consider it. There's many factors around, but I'm strongly considering it.
I want to go back to friends a little bit because I'm still curious about like, for example, if you do end up in the African continent when you retire of whatnot, will you still like connect with your friends from overseas, from like wherever they are? Because yeah, okay, that was a quick answer.
Absolutely. Like even now, like I go to the UK once every 2, maybe 3 years. But like there's again WhatsApp is like you talked about how you can WhatsApp is just phenomenal. That's literally like WhatsApp. If you combine WhatsApp and Instagram, like that's how you really stay in touch with people. So like my friend, like I wasn't able to make his wedding, but he sent me pictures of his baby and the wedding, and I feel like I was there. So do that. So I have in England, I have a few like 3 or 4 like good friends who I'm still in touch with, and yeah, like I mean at this point we're gonna be friends for you get to a certain point where it's lifelong, and so yeah, it's gonna be very important for me to like stay in touch. There's a small handful of people, maybe like 15, maybe like 20, I don't even know, who like
that's not really a handful, but okay, that's a lot. 20 is a lot.
Yeah, that I want to just I would be willing to travel to like stay in touch with them, to like put in energy and all that stuff, and yeah, they are dispersed globally. So if I do move to Zimbabwe, we'll have to figure it out somehow.
I like that. Go with the flow.
Yeah, to double click on this, because that's something like in terms of practicality is something that I often struggle with. So you mentioned, right, you keep in touch and then you fly maybe every couple of years to the UK and see these friends. In the meanwhile, if there's not a lot of chit chat, how do you make sure like the relationship is strong?
Send thoughtful things every once in a while. Like I'm like, for Christmas, I'm just like, hey, how are you and the wife, and how's the newborn? Like I don't know, the newborn, everything's going good here. Just show that you care. Send a nice message, send a nice thought. Like, see something interesting online, respond to it. Like, so that's. I mean, what else can you really do, right? Like that's. I mean, if you're thousands of miles away, I think that's the best way. And if you've had the history, right, and if you've built up the sort of like you've built up like a wealth in your friendship, like a bank, like you have a lot of savings in there. So like the person will understand, like if you don't talk for like a few months, because you've already had that like investment in that relationship. Whereas like if it's someone very new and this and that, then you kind of got to put that time in. You got to like do that. So these people, I mean, I've known them since I was 7, 8. We went to elementary school together. So like, if I go 6 months without talking to them, but then I come to London, I'm like, hey, meet me at a pub. They're not gonna be like, no, I haven't seen you. You haven't messaged me in 6 months. I'm not coming. They're like, yeah, what pub, what time, and to how late? Like,
I want to hone in on this one a little bit more because this is something that I think at one point we were chatting about this. Because I have a lot of friends that I've known since I was 7 as well, that I grew up with in Hong Kong, and sometimes we'll go a really long time without talking. And yes, when we go months without talking, there is, bits and pieces that go missing. There's parts you don't know if you're, I don't know, maturing or growing at the same rate. But for me, there is still that familiarity of we came from the same background, we came from the same area, we have a lot of shared experiences growing up, and it makes it easier that way to stay connected, even though we haven't caught up in months. And so just imagine there has been stuff going on, we haven't caught up in months, so there is a possibility that we might not be, I don't know, somehow on the same page, but I don't know, in my experience, I've managed to stay connected quite well.
This last week I was at they were from my high school. So I went to all boys Catholic Jesuit boarding school in Maryland, called Georgetown Prep, and foundational experience of my life, like literally, like really, 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 really important to me. And we had a not a reunion, but like a New York alumni get together. And like I didn't know it was happening, but like one of my friends, Cesar, who works at Google too, he was the year ahead of me at Prep, sent me. He was like, "Yo, do you know about this event? Are you gonna go?" I was like, "No, I didn't know." I was like, "Dude, but I'm going. Like it's Prep event in like New York. I'm going." So I went there, and it was just amazing. Like those people from my class, all the way to like class like 10 years earlier, 10 years before, and because of that shared experience, like it's a very unique experience. Like all boys Catholic school, like in U.S. boarding. And so because you've been through that, even people who weren't even in my year, I was bonding, I was connected, like, so like, that's what I was, Danny, to your point, I was like, once you go through that shared experience, even if you haven't connected with someone in a long time, that kind of like keeps you bonded, or there's something that you understand about that person, or that's unique to that experience that like if you see them again, you're just like, you just pick up where you left off.
Doesn't need
I
to
mean,
be
obviously
explained.
things can change and people can change a lot, and I'm not gonna rule that out. Like some people from my high school have like changed a lot. I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, like you're completely like the shared experience doesn't. But like the majority is like we get there, we're like, oh, remember this time, remember that time. What are you doing now? Like we're doing similar things, we're on similar path. Like we kind of get each other. So there's something nice about that familiarity of spending time with friends or people that you went through that experience with, and they kind of get you, you kind of get them just intrinsically.
Yeah, that part is, I think you helped explain it for me, is basically it's a part of you that you don't have to explain. It's already a given. And they already know it. And that's why, in that way, while there could be a huge difference in where the person has ended up, at least the beginning part, there is that familiarity and you don't have to explain it. And that part's quite nice. Yeah.
I think this is a good way for me to conduct this wedding guest list thought experiment to Tanaka, because I think this is something that Danny and I have been talking a lot about, and we'll put you on the hot seat about this, because I'm just really curious. It doesn't have to be true, but like how you're processing this. The thought experiment that Danny and I have been kind of playing around with is, if you were to have a big party or a wedding tomorrow, for example, and you had to make a wedding guest list. You cannot invite everyone you've ever known. It has to be, of course, limited at some point. How do you cut? Who would you consider bringing to this event? Because of course you have all these important prep school friends that you've at one point were very meaningful in your life, but maybe at this point you're not as in touch with them, and then you have all these new friends, the good fellas and all of that. So how do you think about this?
Yeah, that's an interesting one, because it's the people who are very, very, very meaningful and important to you, but it was like so long ago.
Exactly.
And how do you value? What's the weight on, like? Is the weight on recency, or is the weight on like importance in that moment? Peak. Like I have a friend in Spain, Cosme Borgoretti. Him and I like were hanging out all the time, and I haven't talked to this guy in like 10 years, in like 12, 11 years. I often think, I'm like, what's he up to? Blah blah. Like, but I'm like, I kind of want him at my wedding, like because of what we shared when we were like 13, 14.
Yeah.
It was amazing. So it's some sort of, first of all, I need not. Well, what's the budget? Like,
I like this. You go for practicality. All right.
yeah, budget for the bar, and then like figure out how many people I can get. But no. In all reality, I probably would put a little bit more weight on people who have been there and for me like of recent, and been very important to me of recent, like who've been very good friends recently. Like that just or like who yeah. So probably like those people probably would prioritize, and then there's gonna be a handful of people like old timers who maybe I'm not great in touch with them now, but I'll at least reach out and extend an invite. And then there's some people who just kind of went different ways, and I'm like, you know what? They're kind of doing a different thing. I'm doing a different thing. Like, I want the best for them, but maybe they're not. I wouldn't like prioritize them on the top list. So that's a little bit vague, but that's like the rough criteria that I would probably think about.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense, and it is something that I think a lot of people kind of debate. Exactly what you said. You said it so concisely. What weight do you put on recency or on impact? Because at one point in life, these were like the most important people in your journey, and they were very meaningful. So you would also want them, but it shifts every time. And I thought about this, Tanaka, because I know a lot of MBA friends who had a list for right after graduation if they were to get married, and because of COVID, that list changed 2 years later. The invite went out, and it was a completely different guest list, different bridal party, and you're like, interesting. 2 years later, that list is no longer the same, right? So I understand.
That is funny. That's funny. Yeah, so we'll see.
We shall see.
That's for everyone. I think one last question from my side, out of curiosity. Do you think, from your perspective, do you have different friendship relationships between men and women, and do you keep more of one gender than another, or like do you not view them as so gendered in that sense?
That's a good question. I'll be very honest with you from my perspective.
Please do.
I definitely have much more male friends than female friends. Yeah, and I do think that there's a difference. Maybe just because I went to like old boys high school or something. I don't know, but yeah, I just like it's probably just more natural for me to be just like a very, very, very good friend with it. I can be like a good friend, acquaintance with a woman, this and that, but like to be a very like deep friend. And there's some women in my life who I consider that, but like it just comes more natural, more easy, and it's more, yeah, it's just for me to be with a guy like than with the female, and there's probably reasons why, but
could it possibly be that shared experience that we talked about earlier? Could it be? I don't know. I'm wondering, because I have that same thing too. Growing up, I feel like I had a lot more guy friends, but as I got older, I definitely the longer term friends are mostly girls and women, and I'm just wondering, is it that shared experience?
I think an element of it is, right. Like, did you play rugby? Did you do this? Did you I don't know, like get hazed at like a fraternity? Like, there's things like that like are just unique. But honestly, like, I think it's not even. I think it's completely not in your best interest. Like, as a guy, it's only in your best interest to try and be friends with I think you absolutely should. And like it just makes sense. But it's just the depth for me. Like the depth, I think. I don't know. Maybe some other people do it, but for me, it's just like I don't know. And also, like, I mean, let's be real. Like some of these, like now these women who I knew in college or high school, I was good friends with, like they're like getting married, they have a couple kids, they this and that. Like, you have a couple kids. I'm not gonna be calling you at this time or that time or talking to you about this or that. Like that's just like it's kind of like a little bit of respect. Like let me keep it like arm's distance. So and maybe I'm wrong with that, and maybe but like that's just kind of my nature versus one of my boys. Like I'm calling you at 1 a.m. in the morning. I don't care. Like if I need to do that, or if I need to bed with you, if I need to do that, versus like this person's like literally next to their husband with a kid, like they're like getting a fake call from me or what. Like I'm not gonna do that. So there's an element of like a little bit of a distance there, a little bit of a respect. But yeah, don't get me wrong. Like I have many, like I feel like acquaintances to friends, but the very, very, very deep friends are almost all guys.
I don't disagree with you there. I think since I was a kid, I remember when I was like a teenager, like one of my like older guy friends, who's like a friend of my sister, said to me that guys and girls can't really be friends. And ever since then, I've had a bone inside me being picking at it. But then as I get older, I realize it just happened to naturally just pan out that way for me. That I have more female friends than I do male friends. I only have like a couple, like a handful, like 2 to 3 very close guy friends, and even then I'm still closer to my female friends. And so I don't disagree with you at all. It's something that I'm still thinking about and still figuring out, and I'm wondering still, is it like you said, what we were talking about earlier with something else, that shared experience of just, I don't know, could it be as simple as that? I don't know if, yeah.
I see it happen sometimes. Like every now and then, I see a guy and a girl who just seem genuinely very good. I'm like, wow, like you guys have done it, like amazing. Like, what's your secret?
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
But it feels rare. It feels like rare for me.
It does feel rare, and I wonder sometimes why it's rare. I'm still thinking about that. It's something I'm still thinking about since I was 16. So I'll continue thinking that.
Yeah, I have some theories, but.
I have some theories too.
Off camera theories.
Okay. I'm satisfied with our answers there.
But anyway, those were all the questions I had. I don't know, Danny, from your side, if there's anything else you want to ask Tanaka about friendships.
No, I think I got a really good outline. You also threw me by surprise with a lot of the points that you made today. Thank you so much for talking to us and giving us your perspective. It was quite different from, I think, mine and Christina's.
Yeah, and also like how chill you take it. I think I overthink it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, this was good. This was very thought provoking. Like, made me think about a few things that I hadn't thought about in a bit, and get some ideas out there. So I appreciate it. Great topics. I'm gonna be following you guys and tracking, see who the next one is that answers these questions, because I wanna see how they respond too. But yeah, this was fun. This was fun.
Thank you so much, Tanaka, for your time. And I know it's getting late over there. I want you to get some rest before you take off for your trips, all over the world. So, and then if there's no more questions, we'll thank you and wish you a happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you both. Hope you have a great one in Taiwan.
Thank you so much, Tanaka.
Come see us soon.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
Yes.
Bye.
Yes. Try my best. Thank you. Bye.
Okay. So, what do you think?
That was definitely different than I expected. How about you?
It was about what I expected, actually. I'm gonna be honest. Yeah, I was a little bit surprised. He definitely threw some curveballs at me. Like, what was the curveball?
The shared experiences for you?
The shared experiences, yeah. I thought that was really interesting, and it helped me with a bit of connection there, because I know that was something that we discussed before, and we hadn't seen eye to eye, so to speak. But with him, the way that he said it made a lot more sense. Like, so definitely, he made it more sense. He's very sensible, the way that he was saying it.
He was so logical about it.
Very logical about it. He was saying that, yes, when you meet up, sometimes if too much time has gone by, maybe there is a disconnect. But at least the one part that is still, like, ingrained in both of you is the fact that you had shared experience from your past. You came from the same place, you grew up the same way, like, or similar ways.
Yeah.
That was really quite profound to me. And then the other one I really liked was the fact that, guys also chitter chatter. I know you chitter chatter. I know you do. It's not just women. Men also chitter chatter.
Maybe not as much as we do, but they still have, their groups and their group chats and whatnot.
I'm such a bad example to be saying this. I was going to ask, like, do women actually chitter chatter that much? But the thing is, I chitter chatter so much, so I'm not a good example about that. But, okay.
I think it's personality based as well, so I can see that. But he also, I think the other really, really impactful one that I took away was this idea of, having a list of friends that you call for good news. To consider that a good friend. I really never thought about it, and I think that's such a good one.
I never thought about that either, and I found that so profound, actually, because when, you always think of that person, someone, like, who can you call when things are really bad, when, like, you're in a bad place? but I've never really thought about who you can call when there's really good place, like when we're in it. I know you were thinking, because I could feel you thinking next to me.
I was thinking so hard. And I was like, can I call this person? Can I call this person? Will this person pick up my phone? Like, this is a lot of thinking.
And I particularly liked it because I thought, and in that moment, I was thinking not so much who I could call, but in my past experience when I have done that. Because like sometimes you always think of like the thing when you're calling people about the negative stuff, you're always worried about them receiving you and making sure like you're validated and all that kind of stuff. But the thing is, for the good ones too, I went back and thought about it. Sometimes when you share good news with people, sometimes they also don't give you that quote unquote validation or excitement, right? Yeah. So excitement would be the validation. Yeah. And I realized that, and I thought that was like, I can't believe I'd never thought about that before. I thought that was so interesting.
I'm gonna go around asking my friends like, can you be my one call if I have good news to share?
Yeah.
Oh my god!
You can call me.
Oh my god! I don't know why I'm getting emotional. This is crazy.
It's a very profound thought that I never really thought about. I really enjoyed
Tanaka
that
for that one.
Yes,
that one was like a thinker.
Yeah, and the other one that I'm still thinking about is that male and female friendship thing, because I think when I was like 15, 16 and I heard that quote, like someone had told me that at the beginning, I was like, so you're telling me that we're not going to be friends in the future? And the thing is, we aren't friends in the future. And I think that's particular to that person because I think he was very, very traditional in that sense. Like, we can't be friends now, I'm married. But like, and it's kind of, it is a bummer. Yeah. It's a bummer. I've never wanted that to be true. And I think even till now, I still don't want that to be true. But I do think that there is some truth in it, except it's not as like awful as I think it is. I think it just, for me, it happened that way. Like later in my life, I have less guy friends. I have more female friends. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts about that? What do you think? I'm still going to evolve my thinking about this.
I understand where everyone's coming from and understand kind of what Tanaka was saying about, respecting the space and also just like some of the norms. I think it just makes me feel a little sad.
It makes me feel sad too. But the thing is, the respect thing that he was talking about, what's really funny is that I wouldn't call my female friends at 1 a.m. in the morning because I know that they have lives, but once in a while I might call my guy friends at 1 a.m. in the morning. It's so funny. I was thinking, as he's saying that, I'm like, whoa. Do I respect my female friends a little bit more than I respect my guy friends?
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe everyone just respect women better. I don't know.
Oh, I don't know that either. It's something that I'm still thinking about because there is also that thought of like, are guys and girls, sometimes do they only become friends? That initial friendship, is that also just because of attraction? Is it always that? And they had that rule of like, if you meet them as couples, it's different.
So many rules.
There's so many rules on that. But it makes me a little bit sad too. That's why I think about it. Mm-hmm. Mostly because of going back to that 16, 16-year-old example. I'm okay with it now, but I'm just thinking, moving forward.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. We'll see.
And then I think the last takeaway from me is that seeing how chill Tanaka is just like about these friendships and all that, it makes me feel like maybe I do overthink this and, gotta take a chill a little bit. So anyway, that was my takeaway.
I'm going to not say anything about that.
All right. People don't have to message me back. Don't worry.
All right.
All right, so I think this wraps up our 7th episode?
Yeah, 7th episode. And we got one more exciting episode coming up where we are going to have our first in-studio interview with 2 people. Definitely stay tuned for that, everyone. Thank you so much for watching today. Don't forget to follow us on all the social media. And see you next time. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.